This is one. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Showing Up Whole, the place where we discuss alignment in mind, body, heart, and spirit in every aspect of our lives. And today we are having a conversation that I've been waiting for quite a while. It is one of my very favorite topics. We are talking to Crystal Dawn, and Crystal Dawn is from Crystal Dawn Academy. She is making a lot of waves over on Instagram right now, and she is known for being a voice of spiritual sovereignty and women empowerment. We are going to be talking, a lot about a little bit of deconstructing some religious doctrine. We are going to be talking about some magic, maybe some witchy stuff, and
Oh
we're going to
yeah.
have some fun. Oh, yeah. All right. Hi, Crystal. I'm so
Hi,
excited
thank
to have
you
you
so
here.
much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it just, as soon as I started seeing your videos pop up,
Mm.
it's funny because I show them to my whole family because like my whole family loves these videos because you walk
Oh, I
across the
love that.
screen. I must admit, my husband is like, "Is this the woman with the towel on her head?" Because sometimes you're writing her up, and I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God, that's so sick." My 16-year-old son was like, "You get to talk to her. That's so cool."
Oh
He
my gosh, I love that.
because you have been sharing information that, quite frankly, my whole family is passionate about, and
Mm,
that is really about taking what so many people have known as doctrine, as fact, religious concepts that have been really misunderstood and misconstrued. And
yeah.
you are actually pulling out the roots of them, how the Bible was formed, the true truth. This is not an easy topic to embark
Hmm.
on. It can be very triggering for a lot of people,
So layered. Yeah.
so layered. It rattles the foundations for a lot of people, and yet we are at a
Hmm.
time that this is like one of the most important topics to be having. Weirdly enough, it's
Yep.
such a random thing to be such an important thing to talk about, but
I
this is
know.
important.
It is important. I totally agree. From my perspective, it's not something that I ever thought that I would be talking about, truthfully, just because it was part of my past. And I thought that though that's just something I just leave behind
Yeah.
because it was painful or psychologically traumatizing, I guess, to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that I felt called back to after leaving the church, leaving the faith, and now coming back to it, I guess, to reclaim the parts that felt true, but then actually uncovering a whole lot that I wasn't expecting.
Okay, I want to hear more about that. Like what was that? What was that like? Because you grew up, your father was in the church, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, my dad
Okay.
was a pastor growing up, so I was very involved in the church until I was in my sixth grade year, until I was about 13. Everybody I knew was in the church. Everything I did was part of the church. I even went to school at the church, and then I was homeschooled, and I was a part of the homeschool groups that were in the church. I didn't know anybody outside of church really. Unless I went to like family reunions and then you met the extended family and then you're like, oh, they're the people that go to public school. Oh man, it's so taboo when you're
Yes,
in that
I
when
know.
you're in that world. It's such a different world.
Yeah.
But when I started to actually go to public school when I was 13, I was so excited. I was like, this is the best. I get to live out what I see in movies. Even in a small country, bumpkin town, I felt like I was finally going out into the world. And it was really eye-opening to me in a sense. I felt like I could finally figure out who I was. I could explore different ways of doing my hair. I could wear makeup. I could get, different kinds of clothes. I could be popular, things like that. It was really cool to finally be out in the real world. However, I definitely met a lot of people who weren't even involved in church, and that was eye-opening to me because I was like, "Oh no, does that mean you're going to hell?" And then it was hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that they were going to hell. And then and then the cracks start showing when you start to
Yeah.
get out of that world for sure.
Yeah.
And it kind of evolved from there. There was a lot of big T traumas that happened in my teenage years just from being who I was, just from being a human and having that being, taboo
Yep.
in the Christian community.
Yeah.
I was the troublemaker, quote unquote, but I was really just being a teenager, really.
Yeah.
So,
Was there, I'm actually really curious about that because I know with my own past, there was kind of this sense of you went out into the world And I mean, and I was homeschooled as well, so I totally relate. You kind of have that, it's like there's this massive, I used to say it was like a glass wall that you could like
Yeah.
you'd be in the world, but you couldn't, like, it was like something couldn't get through. And you're like, I don't
Hmm.
understand.
Hmm.
Did you feel you needed like that label, or did you want to ditch that label when you went out
Oh,
into the
wow.
world?
So when I first went out into the world, I definitely wore that label. Like I had a chip on my shoulder because like in that community, you really believe you are the chosen ones. You're the
Yes.
righteous ones. You're the ones
Yes.
who know what is right. You're the good ones.
Yeah. Right.
And so I definitely had this chip on my shoulder. And my dad even used to call me his little evangelist because I would hand out business cards at school and be like, come to church on Sunday. And now I look back, I'm like, oh, that is real cringe. But and even, some friends would come. Some friends would come and they would sit very uncomfortably in church. Like,
Hey, good friends.
I remember,
Like, let's just support
no,
Crystal.
some of them enjoyed it because, there were some cute boys there and
Yeah.
things like that. We
Right.
were
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I definitely have been asked, is this a cult? Like, and I would be like, oh my gosh, how could you ask me that? No, this is not a cult. But no, now looking back, I want to be like, Crystal, that was a cult. I mean, that was a cult, but not the kind of
No.
cult that you would see on documentaries, nothing like
No.
that. But it had a lot of its cultish themes
Of
going
course.
on.
Of
Yeah.
course, because no matter what, as soon as anything sways you from your own personal inner calling, your own voice,
Hmm.
your own connection, and something else becomes an authority, that kind of defines what a cult is, really.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Yep, truly.
Yeah.
And it was throughout high school that I really stopped spending a whole lot of time at home. I got like a job, I had a car and a driver's license and friends, and I had this almost leading a double life because I was myself with my friends, and then I would go home and make sure I was at church on Sundays. And then it wasn't until I experienced like the purity culture, big
Mm.
T trauma that I had when I did not fulfill my promise that I had made to God. I had to sign a contract and wore a purity ring and everything that I was going to save myself for my husband until marriage. Otherwise, like I was broken. And when I didn't keep that promise, that was a big deal in my family, and they needed to get as much advice, I think, is what they thought that they were doing, was asking for prayers and advice. But essentially, everybody knew. The church knew, my whole family knew, my grandparents, even my cousins who were missionaries in Mexico, they knew, everybody knew. And that was the biggest shame I think I've ever felt my whole life. I had many, many years in therapy just to recover, even as an
Mhm.
adult,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
to deprogram that kind of ideology about who I am and what my body is
Yeah.
in this world. And my very first therapist, because I got really depressed. I got really depressed when I was like 16 because of this, because I felt like I mean, you might as well have just sewn a big A on my shirt and just walked me around. I just felt like that all the time. And unless I was at school. At school, I was normal. Right. At school, I just felt like a normal kid. I was a normal teenager. I was experiencing normal coming growing up things. But at home, it was, oh no, there's that one. And not that my parents ever treated me that way, but I definitely felt that way.
Yep.
My parents were doing the best they could. They were also indoctrinated, believed that it was horrible, anyways. But it was my first therapist that ever told me that that was not right, that they did that they told everybody. And
Yeah.
that was the first adult that ever showed me that adults make mistakes, that adults do not know everything and anything. They do not have all the answers. And he was the first person to ever really give me a voice in my family because I was able to tell my parents that and tell them that that was
Wow.
not okay. And they apologized. Like, really, truly, that was the first time and then from there, I wanted to be a psychologist. I was like, this is great. You like
Yep.
give people freedom. You,
I was just going to say, set people free. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
truly. So I ended up going to college for that, but that's a whole different story. But that truly, that was when the biggest crack started to show for
Yep.
me. And I started to feel in my soul, I was like, I don't know if I can align myself. I don't feel like I'm a Christian anymore. But it's not because I don't feel worthy of being a Christian. It was that first feeling of like, I don't think I can say that I want to treat people like that. I don't feel like I
Yep.
want to decide who's going to heaven or hell. I don't want to be the judge of any of that. And I felt like that's what that world is. It's just so full
Yeah.
of judgment, even though they don't say that, even though
Yeah.
they will say God's our judge, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're judging.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
And it's like it's an interesting thing because it's like I became really passionate about labels when I first
yeah.
started kind of de deregistering myself.
Yeah.
In some ways, I was like, so what am I? If I'm not this,
Uh-huh.
what am I?
Oh, I
And you
totally
get
went through
into
that
this thing,
too.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you kind of think, well, I need a term that I can get. It's like the business card, right? It's like this is what I believe. Here, this
Show me
sums
a
it up.
roadmap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Hmm.
then it's like when you meet people for the first time, you can say, but I'm this. And then they go,
Hmm.
okay, data gathered. It's like
Yeah.
this weird, like, okay. And I remember telling people that, I was a Christian, and then they'd be like, oh, so you believe this and this and this. And I'd be like, no,
Yep.
okay, we have an
I
issue.
get it.
Like,
Hmm.
so now, I mean, now you do call yourself a witch, theoretically.
Yeah, I do. I do. It's, yep. And
That's
it's more of like a
I'm impressed.
reclamation type.
I've gotta say, this
Thanks.
this is like this is quite the journey. How did you get into that? Because I mean, honestly, this is something that I do talk to a lot of women about, and they're like, okay, I don't know if I
Hmm.
can fully claim that label.
I
Ooh,
know.
because
And it did
then,
take a long time for me to even
yeah,
get comfortable with it, for sure.
yeah,
Because I think that there's such an image that comes
yep,
to mind, especially when you're coming from that world. There's such an image tied to it. Even if you're not in that world, there's such an image tied to what a witch is.
yeah.
And it's so diverse. It is
Uh-huh.
so diverse. I have met so many women who align themselves with that term, who identify as that term, and none of them are the same. And
Yep.
it's that to me feels like freedom in a weird way.
Ooh,
It's like a sacred rebellion against what the church wanted to label women,
yes,
wise women, women who are sovereign, women who are independent. That's to
yes,
me, that to me is a witch, is a woman who is her own authority, does not put her authority or power outside of her. And to me, that's what a witch is. Am I a practicing witch in the other sense of like working with the elements? I love to get into working with objects and intention and things like that. Yeah, I have a
yep,
part of me that really enjoys that. That's like my
yep.
fun side.
Yeah, me too.
And going out into the woods and finding twigs and gifts from nature and making offerings to nature. I love that too, but that's like my childlike essence coming through. But to me, truly, what a witch is also somebody who stands up against injustices and it is outspoken and shares her opinions. And if that's not what somebody thinks a witch is, that's okay. Like you get to define it for yourself, truly.
I love that so
Hmm.
much because honestly, it does feel, quite frankly, the church did put on a certain
Uh,
framework of what a witch is.
yeah.
A witch was never actually meant to be like that. It was supposed to be wise woman, healer, someone who does
Hmm.
work with the elements, someone who's actually
Hmm.
doing natural things, which is
Yes.
totally ingrained within us. And when you actually look at the concept of what a witch has become, it seems it literally is a smear campaign on
Yeah.
that was inflicted on something. So
Because we don't fit into their agenda,
yeah,
their perfect what they need from
yep,
women in order to fulfill and continue to fulfill their agenda. And when I say they, I'm not speaking like pastors. I mean, maybe some of them, I'm sure a lot of them, but when I say they, it definitely gives this representation of like an us versus them mentality, and I'm not trying to make a divide. But there are people who have put this religion and this belief system on this planet with an agenda
yes, a
and
long time ago too.
a
This
long
started
time
this
ago.
started a really long time ago.
Really long. We're talking
Yeah,
thousands of years ago.
yeah,
And it has continued
yeah.
because it is so ingrained in our subconscious. And it just continues to indoctrinate generation after generation after generation. And because personally being somebody, one of a family that I absolutely love, and I still see my family still very much within the church systems. And it's hard for me to be like, oh no, it's us versus them. It really is there are some people who really wake up from it, and there are some who feel that sense of security because that's what has been their sense of security.
Yeah.
That's what they feel safe in. And it's heartbreaking, but also I can't judge that's,
Well, and I think
I
there's
can't judge
also
their path.
no, exactly. Well, because so often what has those cracks that you talked about were the actual judgment that we would feel. And so
Yeah.
therefore, I mean, I'm a huge one of my biggest fears is hypocrisy. I always watch out for myself. I'm like, I will not be a hypocrite. I will not be a
Yeah.
hypocrite. It's like, okay, I didn't like being judged, so I cannot judge. That's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Every single person has their own path, and
Hmm.
there's this gray area with all religions where
Hmm.
there's the doctrine that's being passed down, and then there's the people who practice, but they also, I was raised by a woman who believed in church shopping. She kind of didn't. She just kind of went from
Oh, sure, sure.
denomination to denomination to denomination, and she turned Catholic, but she called herself a small C Catholic because it was about universality, not about Catholicism. It was like she had her own thing going with Jesus. And she still
Yeah.
does. And you go,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, from your definition, that would actually make her a witch.
Exactly. I was going to say you came from a woman who couldn't be put in a box.
Exactly.
And even like coming from where I came from, I never thought that I would be actually almost in a sense like teaching the truth of Jesus. And I sometimes I go, what am I doing?
I know.
Like,
Well, and this is where we start pulling apart the gray matter, right? Because it's like
yeah.
we have the structure, which everybody thinks is actually Christianity.
Yeah.
And it's
I just want to be like, just to be
not.
clear, please
There's
don't get me
church.
confused.
Yeah, it's like, okay, there's this, but then there's something deeper. So let's actually kind of poke around a little bit about this,
Yeah,
because
let's do some poking.
which let's poke. I love poking with a stick, because really you go, I always just imagine when I read Gnostic Gospels, when I look at like the early Christian texts, and when I watch your videos, I always just kind of you imagine like Mary Magdalene and Jesus, and imagine all of these people being like, well, thank goodness it's about some more time somebody is talking about what we talked about, because so
Yeah.
often it's totally misconstrued. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not what's so often perceived as Christianity is not what Jesus taught.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's probably why there's a lot of conversation around it right now. There's a lot of people wanting to hear the truth right now because we can sense it. Like our instincts can sense truth in it and
Yeah.
in parts of the stories and stuff. You're like, but that's how like it's so manipulative in that way. And that's why there's so much hypocrisy, so
Yep.
much of this everything is almost like a battle. You hear one thing in the Bible and then you hear the other thing and then you're like, why is it so contradicting? This
Yep.
is so confusing. But that's how they designed it. It's meant to confuse you. So you are basically hearing the truth from one person at a pulpit, and that person is basically preaching their perspective. And so it's you have to be careful whose perspective you're listening to.
Yep.
And so my MO is always don't just listen to what I'm saying. Please go research it for yourself,
Yep.
because what you find is fascinating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because the truth of who even Mary Magdalene was, the truth of who Yeshua was, is wildly different than what a lot of churches were teaching or
Yep.
and still teach. And I think that was reading and researching about Mary Magdalene, I think was the biggest
I know,
eye-opening
me too. I
aha,
just got
because
chills. Yeah.
yeah, it was like that moment I finally had a mirror. Like I finally had a mirror in front of me, because growing up within that system, girls don't have mirrors. There's no woman to
Yeah.
look up to
Yeah.
in that system at all. So all we know is what we're told of who we're supposed to be. And in that system, a lot of the times it's just you're supposed to get married to a man, you know, be obedient to a man, have his children, and produce the Lord's army and
Yeah.
go to church every Sunday. Things that, yada yada yada. It's never really supportive of women going out and finding their true passion and having a career and listening to their instincts and knowing who they are and having a voice
Yeah.
and finding out who Mary Magdalene truly was
Yeah.
is like, wow, this is a woman who you cannot put in a box. She had a voice, she had influence, she had knowledge. It was one of those moments where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
finally, like I
Yeah.
feel like I can see myself in these stories that you look back now and you're like, well, that's why they didn't put them in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
even the fact, and it just fascinates me how broken telephone has occurred through the time. I
Yeah.
mean, like, really, and anyone listening, Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute. Can we
Yep.
just,
Can we
please,
just put
can
that
we
on the
get
record
over this
again,
one?
over and over and
Please,
over again?
please. She was not. And actually, what's fascinating, and this is what I mean by broken telephone, even the church will know, like,
Yep.
they withdrew that
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
80s. Like,
The Pope actually
gone,
said,
people.
was it Pope Francis? I can't remember which Pope it was, but actually
Oh no,
declared she
I
was
think
the
I want to say
apostle
it
of
was
the
even
apostles.
before that. I think it was
Yeah.
like Pope John Paul, was it? Like I think
Oh, yeah. It might have
this
been
was
John Paul.
long, long
Hmm.
ago. Who went, no, we made that up. Okay.
Yeah. But we're not going to go change the book.
No. And
Can't
no, can't do that. No.
do that. That's
That can't do
absolutely
that.
not okay.
You're not allowed to do that.
Only
But
kings do that.
yeah, exactly. Like, but that all of a sudden you hear this and you go, hold on. What are we talking about? Because actually the church admitted they made it up. So
Yeah.
even they are being open about this.
Yeah.
Like this
But it
is
doesn't make people, I mean, it makes some people go, wait, if you made that up, what else is made up?
yes,
What else has been changed? And when you open up that can of worms,
yes.
it's like, whoa, how do
Please
you
open that
not?
can of worms. Like
Yes, please
anyone
do.
listening, just please open the can of worms because it's now, and also let's remember it's humans with human
Hmm.
intentions. Like
Yeah.
from thousands of years ago, humans wanted a certain, we kind of see it nowadays. They wanted a certain level of control and they wanted to things to go in a certain direction. So they
Yeah.
used certain things to go in that direction.
Yeah.
That's
And it
fine.
was an
It's
empire
human.
that put that
Yeah.
whole doctrine together. The whole
Yes.
doctrine of Christianity as we know it has been put together not by just prophets. It's they took
Yes.
words of prophets and they pieced it all together, and this was done within an empire with an agenda. It was like it would be like our government today going and picking through, I don't know, the Twilight series and saying this is who we believe is God. Like I mean, when you look at it for what it is, you're like, holy shit, how has this lasted for
Yes.
thousands of years?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, as I think like it's so funny to imagine, you have Jesus who actually did speak certain truths. You had Mary
Hmm.
Magdalene, certain
Yeah.
truths. This is the equivalent of AI making us say things
Yeah.
nowadays that we don't believe.
Wow. Hmm.
People talk about that now, and we can laugh. My husband thinks it's hilarious when he watches Queen Elizabeth riding a scooter and AI. He thinks this is the funniest thing, and I'm like, yes, but if I get well known, I don't want people making videos of me doing that. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
This is the equivalent of what we're looking at. This is like
Yeah.
ancient AI. They
Because if
took
you
someone,
can control somebody's perspective, you can
yes,
control the narrative, the truth. You
exactly.
can control the
Ex-
future.
exactly. And so imagine, like 100 years, 200 years down the road, people watching a video of Queen Elizabeth watching a scooter should be like, yeah, she did that. No,
Hmm.
she did not. This is what happened
I
to
know.
Jesus.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
we need to roll it back because
Yep.
what's phenomenal about when you actually get down to the true story or the true
Hmm.
messages of Mary and Jesus and Thomas and all of these pieces of wisdom is it is actually like what you described, a witch. It is actually personal sovereignty.
Yeah, they were trying to tell people stop worshiping an empire. They were trying to tell people God is within you. Do not worship an emperor as if he is God. Don't go and give him your sacrifices. Like you don't owe this person any money. They shouldn't have control over you. You are equal. And yes, they had the mysticism included in it. They went through mystery schools. They traveled. They were well-cultured beings. And all of that isn't told. All of that isn't part of the story. And they talk about, they did include Jesus flipping tables in temples, but like, but why?
Yeah.
That's
Nobody asks about that. It's like,
no, all they say is they were pissed off that they were in their father's house, but explain why that was
yeah,
upsetting to him. Please tell us the rest of the story. And seriously, I have so many people who like to jump down my throat and say I'm picking the Bible. I'm like, oh, you're quite the kettle because seriously, like you have to go
speaking of
into,
which,
yes, come on.
yeah,
So I definitely believe that. I mean, Yeshua would probably consider himself a witch today. Mary Magdalene would consider herself a witch, a priestess. Like this, you have to remember the time in history that this was all happening. Women were property. And it's almost like anybody who claims the Bible as ultimate truth is putting their name behind that. Women are property. It's like saying that what was going on 2000 years ago should still be happening today. Okay, well, if we're going to say that, like we have a lot to talk about
yeah,
because if you think that
yeah.
I hate that though because the cherry picking that happens it's just to justify what they want. It's them trying to
Oh.
justify what they believe is right or wrong. And I think the Bible has been weaponized for thousands of years because people can easily do that because the empire has been doing that.
Isn't that amazing though when you actually look at it as like agendas? When you
Hmm.
actually look at how it's used, like it was compiled the way it was compiled. And for anyone who doesn't know, there were all these books that were actually taken out, loads of books
Hmm.
taken out,
Yeah.
buried, destroyed. Thank goodness
Hmm.
for whoever decided to bury them somewhere for a better time.
Yep.
And so those they were compiled for a specific agenda. And now we watch as that still the agenda keeps changing in some little
Hmm.
tiny ways. It maneuvers, but still people cherry pick for their personal agenda.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I suppose that every religion can deal with that. I think that that is something that actually happens, especially in anything monotheistic that is, kind of, it's used for agendas. But
Oh, monotheism absolutely is.
yes. So it really, I'm trying to very quickly as I'm speaking these words, trying to run through if any other like Eastern religions have that. And I'm like, I'm not sure. Shelf
Hmm.
that. We'll see. But it still stands
I
that,
believe anything that tells you that your power is outside of you has an agenda. There should never be that message being given to anybody is that you should trust something outside of you to tell you what's best for you. And they even have that narrative though within Christianity. I've heard it so many times in my DMs and my messages being being told or reminded, quote unquote, that anything self-serving is demonic and that is of Satan and things like that. It's like, wow,
yeah.
wow. It's
Well, actually,
so
it's so
indoctrinated, that
ingrained.
programming. Hmm.
My husband went to a church. Actually, I think it was here in the UK. He went to a church. It was quiet. All the churches are still open here, and so we have a thing of like, oh, it's a really great place to just drop and be quiet. Get
Yeah.
away from the world and just meditate for a bit. So he was
Uh-huh.
in there. Ended up talking to a priest. Literally happened to mention the words, "Oh well, I can feel it in my heart and in my gut." He got kicked out.
No.
Yes. The priest literally said, "You have to leave. That is Satan." And he was like, "I'm sorry. What?"
Wow. Oh,
It
wow.
it's amazing how, and actually I had a similar experience when even
It's like
when
you think for yourself, you must be Satan.
yes. I remember I was teaching a child's class once and I was like, "Well, I want them to know the God within themselves." And the woman
Hmm.
turned to, "You can't say that. Don't ever say that." And I went, "Oh, we have a problem." That
Yeah.
was like one of my
Yeah.
massive wine bag. This is an issue. So it's fascinating to know that your instincts and intuitive pull
Hmm.
of your connection to spirit is
Hmm.
exactly what Jesus and everyone wanted you to know.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, isn't it's so baffling to actually for I know a lot of people listening to this might be like, oh mom, okay, wait, like because this is actually bumping up exactly what we're talking about. It's like, well, that can't be from God. That
Hmm.
conversation can't be from God because we're saying it's from within you.
Hmm.
But it's actually what Jesus said.
Yeah. Ugh. The way that Emperor Constantine, actually any of the emperors from like the third to sixth, um, where's the word? Wow. The third to six. What am I trying to say?
Um,
Wow.
authority.
No. Wow.
Council. Council. No. Um,
Wow. The word is literally not even in my brain right now. Century. Jeez.
oh,
The
okay.
third to sixth century.
There we go.
Wow. Mainly to the to the sixth century. That's when the actual Christian um, dogma, the religion was being formed, when the Bible was being formed, all of that. That that's when the monotheistic Christianity even was created. Before that, there were many belief systems within the movement that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were leading. And
It
you
it
have to wonder, even when you're reading the Bible, if you were to go back and you were to read the Bible and you were to pick out all the times that the word Lord and God are used and how interchangeable they are and how they're not always talking about some man in the sky. It's actually talking about either an emperor or a king or some
mm,
highborn, and they're writing it as if it was some God Almighty in the sky who have done these things. And yes, they are also portraying that because of the Nicene Creed. That was decided by an emperor. The Nicene Creed of Christianity being under one God, the Father Almighty, was decided by an emperor. And
how convenient.
I know.
How could how
And it's like,
wouldn't we
wow,
just all love
there are
that?
millions, there are millions, if not billions, people praying to this quote unquote God in the sky. And I can't help but say, like, I know that they feel things. I know that people experience miracles. I know that people, when they go to church and they all sing together, they experience things. So I know that there is a higher power that we are all a part of, that we are
Yes.
all piece of.
Yes.
But when you go into those spaces, you don't even give yourself credit for the power that's inside of you or the power that is in that room singing together, because
Yes.
there's in even when you research ancient mysticism and any of those, even the priestesses, even going all the way back to Sumerian times, like the way that they would sing in caves, it would create this frequency that would heal people. And so when you go into church, oh, I'm getting goosebumps all down my
Yeah, me
legs.
too.
When you would go to church and you sing together, please remember that that is you. It is the people. It is a
Mm,
frequency.
yeah.
It is not because there is some outside man, sky daddy, like
Yes.
pouring blessings down on you. No, you are calling them in. And that is
Yes.
you. The power is us
Yes.
together. And the more that we separate ourselves, are fighting each other, like the less we will feel that, the less we will feel the miracles, the less we will feel the love between. We are one species. We are one species that has been absolutely ripped apart and pinned against each other. And if anything, I know that Yeshua and Mary Magdalene were trying to point that out too. And so being called back to pointing out where we have been divided,
Mhm.
but using a book that is claiming, and some man who lived thousands of years ago, his message being so twisted and co-opted like that by an emperor who literally killed his own family.
Yeah.
Like, you have to ask the questions, like,
Yeah.
who's benefiting from
Yeah.
all of us hating each other? Like, really?
Well, I just totally got chills because I think that's such a beautiful description of how this is. The fact that there
Hmm.
is power in collective. I mean, and
Yes.
we know this. Like, there's enough
Yeah.
scientific studies even that
Uh-huh.
shows that when we all come together, there is a ripple effect. This is a
Yeah.
powerful space, a powerful energy that comes. Yes,
Hmm.
there is an outward flow. There's an outward field. We are tapping into something greater. There is a inner and an outer, and an outer and an inner. That whole environment does create this co-creation with the divine energy.
Totally.
Right.
Hmm.
But uh, it's interesting how we have been bred to lose our sense of worthiness.
Hmm.
I want to ask you a
Totally.
really personal question. Can I ask you a
Yeah.
personal question? Okay.
Absolutely, lay it
Okay.
on me.
Okay.
I just
Um,
get excited.
I'm good. How did you redefine your relationship with God?
Ooh,
That's a
wow,
really big question.
this is a really big question. I have known for quite a few years, since 2019. It's when I first read the book, uh, not The Universe Has Your Back. It's her other one
Oh,
after that.
Gabby Bernstein.
Gabby
And
Bernstein, Super Attractor.
got it. Yep.
Super Attractor was her first book that she put anything about spirit guides in. And I remember reading that, and that was the first time somebody who I really resonated with her work. I really resonated with her messaging. And um, up until this point, like I hadn't been calling myself a Christian. However, I think that comfort to me wise was still things like, oh, I would sometimes read the Bible. I would pray. I was still doing Christian like practices that I
Yep.
had grown up doing because it was a comfort to me. Something felt like
Yeah. It's safe zone for
nostalgic.
your nervous
It
system.
was
Yeah.
safety. Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Now, I had grown up hearing like you do not talk to spirits. Not only that, you don't even talk to your loved ones that had passed. Like I remember when my grandpa died, I asked my mom if I could talk to Papa, and I remember her telling me, "You can talk to Jesus, and Jesus will tell Papa your message." So like we didn't even. I know I didn't
Oh
even get to talk to my ancestors.
Oh, no. You can now.
I know. Gatekeeping, right?
Yep.
But no, this book actually said it right then and there. She was talking about the angels that you can talk to. She was talking about everybody having spirit guides, and something about that pulled a veil back, and I was just like, I knew it. There was this instant feeling of I knew it. I have got goosebumps because I had sensed things my whole life. We all do. We all
Yes.
do. If we're not
Yep.
shut down completely, we all sense these things, and especially as children.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning of, I would call my spiritual journey, the beginning of my deconstruction, because I wasn't just building into this spiritual, mystical. I finally had permission to do so, but I was always curious about it. I mean, I would watch Sylvia Brown, I think her name
Oh, yeah,
was,
yeah,
like the
yeah.
psychic and everything. I was so interested in this stuff growing up, but I was always like, oh, can't tell my parents that I'm watching these things because they would go crazy. So, anyways, it was finally like that book gave me permission to be curious about this stuff. And so it really started to unravel. Now, my dad went through a lot of mental health struggles the last few years of his life, and he passed in 2022.
Okay.
Now, something happened after he passed away. That's a whole long story in itself. Totally not the time to go deep into that because it would take a long time to explain. Um, but I was in therapy after he passed away, and I remember getting this. I kept seeing the number 121, and it was probably a good 12 months, over a year, that I was like, why do I keep seeing this number? I haven't figured it out yet. Something about this number is driving me nuts. Like, why do I keep seeing this number everywhere? Because it's not your typical, like, quote unquote angel number that you hear
No.
about in like spiritual circles and things like that. I'm like, what is this number? And
One
for
to one.
whatever reason, that number led me down a rabbit hole of getting curious about how I was perceiving God, authority, self-trust, things like that. And I don't even remember the whole story, but I remember it was a huge realization I had when I realized that growing up, I saw my dad as an ultimate authority. As a child, you normally do.
Yeah.
You look up to your parents like they are God.
Yep.
And when I saw his faith crumble, when I saw his confidence crumble, his trust in anything. He went through a really tough time mentally. That also was simultaneously breaking down my foundation of what self-trust was, who I can trust, who I need to have better boundaries with, how powerful I am when I need space. I can say it, things like that. A lot of things like started to come online for me about the power of my voice. And so he was even still teaching me from the other side things about who I was. And I realized in some point of that I was seeing 121 because I was sending myself a message that to trust yourself is to trust the universe. Your dad doesn't need to be in the middle of that. And to trust the universe is to trust yourself. No other person should be between that. No
Yep.
priest, no emperor, no president, no king, no husband, no
Yep.
nothing. Nothing should
Absolutely.
be in between you and the universe because trusting yourself is trusting the universe. And I remember it brought me to my knees. It was this moment of I have been working for years to find out just how to trust myself. And it was like right there. And then then it's like a process of reprogramming your brain to do
Yes.
that, right?
Yep.
So I gave myself, I can't remember if it was my therapist or me that actually told me, like, why don't you try this? But I gave myself a week. I decided because I think growing up in a lot of fear-based ideologies and dogma, you end up in that programming of constantly catastrophizing everything and
Yes.
thinking the worst is going to happen, constant
Yep.
like horrible images popping into your head. So I was talking to my therapist about this. I was like, oh my gosh, I think about this all the time. Like, why do I have these images of like my children, the worst happening to my children all the time? And it could have been the whole like, what do you call the series? The End Times series. What was it called?
Oh, wait.
Um,
No, wait. My daughter, I think, watched that.
what was it called? I just saw it the other day too. Um, People who are listening are probably like, "It's this."
Okay.
Left Behind, the Left Behind series.
Okay.
So I mean, I grew up thinking that I could wake up one day and my family was going to be gone because like I was the black sheep, right? I was the one who was I probably wasn't going to heaven. So, anyways, you grow up terrified and thinking that the
Yeah.
worst is going to happen. I gave myself permission for a week to trust, to completely trust that everything is going to be okay. And every time I caught myself worrying and trying to control any scenario, and prepare myself for the worst case scenario, I promised myself that I would be like, no, we're not going to worry about that this week. Like, I don't need to control everything this week. And by the end of the week, I was like, I'm going to give myself 30 days. This is great.
Oh,
And
I
in
love
that
that.
process, it was almost like I was trusting the universe outside of me, but
Yeah.
slowly and slowly and slowly that trust got closer and closer and closer. And before I knew it, I was trusting myself fully. And I trust my steps now. I trust my words now. I trust my dreams now. I trust that I am guiding myself. Even if I don't logically understand it, I know that I am. And I trust that. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That is a
Oh,
long story.
no, no, no. But I love these stories because I think it's so important for anyone who's kind of teeter-tottering on the edge
Hmm.
to actually understand what it actually looks like to walk that path.
Oh, yeah. It's
Because
a long path.
it can be a really long path, and because we have to train our brains and our nervous systems to actually feel
Yes.
safe with a different version of divine. But what we
Hmm.
do realize is that even though I mean, you phrase it as trusting yourself. What's funny is that you are actually, by trusting the universe, you're finding the universe. Okay, you could hear the voice of the universe clearer because
Hmm.
you've gotten rid of the fear.
Hmm.
And that's what people forget. We get rid of the
Hmm.
fear, you regulate your nervous system, you feel safe in the arms of the universe. If you want to use
Yeah.
kind of this mystical concept, you feel safe in the universe. So you know you're going to get that nudge. And I always call it the whack over the frying pan over the head, which the universe loves to deliver me. It has no problems being like, you're not doing that. And you feel it within yourself. And so you go, well, okay, so I feel this. I feel myself like where I constrict. I know that that's not,
Oh,
like that's
totally.
the universe telling me no. Where I feel
Yep.
expansive, that's the universe telling me yes. So it's this amazing co-creation where you actually do find your divinity within yourself.
Yep. Hmm.
People hear that if they're not there, they hear that as an ego thing of seeing yourself as divine. No, it's not. It's calming down the fear and actually having trust in the universe. So
Yeah.
while everybody else is talking about having trust in God and being really terrified of the process, it's actually rewinding that and actually building that divine connection within yourself so
Yeah.
that you have a direct line. I have to say, you're 121. I don't
Hmm.
know if it ever dawned to you. All I hear is 1 to 1. Like it's
Oh my gosh, that never dawned
it's
on
like
me.
because that's how we write it in like a coaching session or something. It's a 1-2-1, right?
Okay. I see it now.
It's
I see it
it's
now.
like
That's so funny.
no gatekeeper.
No, yes, exactly. No gatekeeper.
No
Yes.
gatekeeper.
That
You
has
have
been
one to
such
one with
a
the universe. That
yes,
is so
absolutely.
cool. That is
That's
that.
been my
Yeah.
awakening is realizing that there has never been a gatekeeper. It's
Yes.
been invisible and I've been giving my power away to it for half plus of my life.
Yeah.
And there
It,
yeah, just because that's what I witnessed, that's what I saw everybody doing around me, that's what I was told, you know. And that's what indoctrination is you're when you're born into these things, and even if you enter into them from a really vulnerable space, even not as a child, if you go into these spaces and you're feeling very vulnerable, you're going to hear things that do feel comforting, but at the same time, sometimes they really are taking your power away from the situation and putting it where it doesn't belong.
yeah. Well,
Because it's not
absolutely.
It's first of all, there's no accountability for a lot of things within the church. It's
Yeah.
very much, oh no, you're forgiven for everything you do. And that's also true. But have you ever recognized how, like, you can be told you're forgiven, but if you don't forgive yourself, you don't feel it. You don't
Yeah.
feel it. So
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
have to forgive yourself. Like that,
Yes.
truly. So people go to church truly sometimes seeking this forgiveness that only they can give themselves. And yeah, it's hard because like sometimes I do feel myself wanting to say things like, yeah, some people really do find safety and happiness and love within the church, but I truly believe it's just the community, it's the people.
Yes.
And I it's not really the messaging that is helpful. It's feeling support that's
Well,
helpful
and
in
honestly,
vulnerable
I will
times.
say again, like I have no problems going, finding an empty church and going and meditating in an empty church. I think that the energy of people of faith, that's a different thing because faith, I used to say, hey, I love going to church as long as no one's talking. Like it's just like they just need to be quiet.
That says it all
Because
right there.
that's it. Like it's like they just need to stop trying to interpret it. And I mean,
Yes.
ironically, it's like, the concept, the Catholic concept of a mystery. You go, okay, you're almost there. You're almost there. It's just that you tell people how to listen to the mystery, and therefore
Yeah.
you've defunct yourself. The
Hmm.
concept of the mystery, of actually having faith in it unseen, having this kind of experience. And as a theater background, I will say that they do build it up so that you actually do have
Oh,
an
totally.
emotional experience, that there is something in that. So
Hmm.
I think if you can use it in some ways consciously, if you want, if that's where your nervous system goes, yeah, this is what I'm used to. This is the framework my brain actually registers as divine connection. Great, great. Have it work for you. Do it consciously.
Yeah.
Don't give your power away. And if someone says, don't do this because it's in the Bible, really double check.
Please
Because
do.
chances are it's not.
Yeah, it's either not or that is absolutely not what it means or
Yes.
meant. But also, there are horrific things in the Bible,
Yes.
absolutely horrific, god awful things in the Bible. And so, if people want to go to the Bible to seek answers and need help for things, like, is that really the book that we're telling
Yes.
people to go to?
Yes.
It
It's like
doesn't.
that brilliant scene in West Wing. I don't know if you ever watched that West Wing, the show West Wing.
No.
Oh, I'll
Uh-uh.
send you a link. There's this amazing scene, 1990 series, West Wing. Was it Martin Sheen? I think he stands
Okay.
there, and there's like this really fundamentalist Christian radio producer in the room who's very homophobic and
Mm.
preaches horrible, horrible things. And
Don't
he
even get me
kind of
started
says,
on that one.
he's like, oh, he's like, well, it's interesting that you pull that out. And he's like, I'm wondering, I'm thinking of selling my daughter. So because that's in the Bible, and he lists
Mhm.
all of the
It
different,
is.
so do you think I can get a good price for her? But also, we're not supposed to touch pig skin. So should I cancel the football
Or wear
games
mixed
because
fabrics
or
or
wear mixed fabrics?
any of
Yes. And
these
he's like,
things.
so he pulls out all these things. He's like, so how do you think that should go? Like, how can I actually make that a policy for the
Talk about
country?
cherry picking. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so it's a fascinating thing when you do pull those things apart. I think I play that scene probably once a year, just to be like, even in the 90s, we were still there. It's
Yeah.
just we weren't actually totally bringing it to the surface.
I know. Yeah.
It's going to come to the
It's like
surface.
we've recognized it, I think, I mean, throughout my however many, I'm 39 now. I feel like I've witnessed it in different spaces, in songs and music and
Yes.
TV and things like that. It's like we've been recognizing that the Bible is very political. It is
Yes.
very, very
Yes.
political because it was used as a political tool.
Yes.
But it's been spiritualized for so long that it's going to take a lot of people to ask questions, but yet so many are told not to ask questions because if you're asking questions, then apparently you're like going astray or losing your faith or whatever,
Yes.
or not trusting in God.
Yes.
You're a bad Christian or
Yeah.
whatever if you ask questions, but
Yeah.
that's truly where we should be. We should be at asking questions.
And I think there's something that with divine feminine is being felt so much more now. We
Oh
have
yeah.
the access of this new time where we have this divine feminine energy flowing in. And within that, there, I just linked to
Oh,
him.
there you
I
are.
do
There
have so
you are.
sorry.
Ooh.
With I mentioned divine and divine feminine, internet always goes a little funky, right? It's like
Too much energy, too much
But
power.
it's like, oh, here it comes. She's talking about that again. We are finding this feminine energy, and that's not a gender-based thing. That's not just women thing. It's
Nope.
just an understanding of what we really are, and
Yeah.
recalibrating within that. And that is bringing up a sense of need for honesty and truth, because the old
Yes, which
stories have
is
to
to me is
fall.
such of the
Yes,
divine feminine is honesty, is
exactly.
raw, unfiltered truth. And that is something that it has been taught out of men. It's been taught out of women, the
Yes,
divine feminine. And
yes,
so it needs to come back and reclaim what it
yes.
actually means. Because to us, femininity growing up, even within that, even not even within the Christian culture,
Oh yeah,
like
no, yeah,
the divine, the
media.
feminine or female, whatever, it has been portrayed in a very meek.
Yes.
It's you're either this or you're that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And
black and white.
within that, it's time to actually reclaim that divine feminine is about honesty and faith.
Yeah. Mhm. Oh yeah, and the trusting in your own intuition, your
Yes,
instincts, your natural wildness, your instincts, your gut reactions.
yes,
That's where I feel it is in my gut, my
yep,
stomach. If it's tight, I'm like, oh, I feel
yes,
that. That's a no.
yes,
There's something else there that I need to, process
yeah,
before I even answer this question or whatever the case may be. It's just a hell no.
yes.
Um,
Sometimes
but
I don't even need a
truly,
reason. Like, nope,
yeah.
not doing that. It's like, oh yes, this feels amazing. We're just doing it, and I'm diving in deep. Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
really is. It's in our body. Our body speaks. Our body
yeah,
speaks. And I believe that the divine feminine itself is our bodies as well.
yeah,
And we are so taught out of trusting that, trusting our bodies, believing that it has wisdom and knowledge, men included.
yes,
We've
absolutely.
all been taught out of that, and
Yes,
for a reason, because our body doesn't lie. Our body speaks to us louder than anything else, especially when it's in pain, when it's sick.
yeah,
It's telling us something, and that is wisdom that is surfacing again through a
yeah,
lot of us, which I love.
yes, me
I
too.
absolutely am obsessed with watching this divine feminine energy rise
Yeah,
in many, many of us. It's undeniable.
yeah, it really, really is.
Hmm.
Okay, I could talk to you for ages and ages. And I did
Oh,
say when I was like,
absolutely.
well, I might just need to have you on over and over again. But
Over and over.
first off, let's get everybody, on the track of making sure they follow your Instagram, because this is where you're
Yes.
sharing so much of your stuff.
Hmm.
You do have a patron because you have been shut down.
I have
People,
been.
she has been shut down a few times
Yeah.
on her
If I
Instagram, because
disappear.
that's how the systems work. Let's
Yes,
be
I've been
real.
censored. I've been censored on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok at least has given me warnings before shutting down. They've taken down some of my videos. Instagram apparently just shuts you down or removes a video without giving you a warning. So, that's fabulous. So when that happened, definitely freaked out for a couple days. Well, I had no idea if I was even going to get my content back. And at that point, I think I had just hit 500,000 followers. I was like, wait, what if I had to prepare myself, like, what if I don't get this back? And I'm not going to stop, but like, how do I keep going?
Yeah,
And that was when I was like, I think it's time to start a Patreon. So I am on Patreon. It is
brilliant.
Crystal Dawn Alchemy. It's Crystal, my first name, Crystal, Dawn, Alchemy, Alchemy. And that is also my Instagram handle, but with a four at the end, Crystal Dawn Alchemy 4. I
Okay.
also have a website, crystaldawnalchemy.com. I'm all over the place. But
Okay. And we're going to link all of those in the show notes and make sure that
yeah.
everyone gets to following you. Because honestly, this work is the most important work we can be putting our attention on right
Thank you.
now,
I
is to
feel that
really
so much
claim
too.
ourselves.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, this has been an absolute joy. It's been
It's been an
magical.
honor.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for coming on and
Thanks
sharing
for having
all of
me.
your stories and all of your wisdom. And yeah, and we will definitely have you back. So,
Definitely.
hey.
Thank
All
you.
right. You're stuck with me now. Take care. Bye.